we've had a very interesting day and a half so far in Guyana, with more interesting activities to follow, because we are going to have a meeting and a dinner with the President. We're seeing the Foreign Minister. And of course, we are having an opportunity to interact with all of you, and subsequently with some influential thought leaders in Georgetown who are apparently spending some of their attention on foreign policy issues. So it's going to be, it's not yet the end of our visit. It's a little more than halfway through. What we have been able to, the impression we get, shall we put it this way, so far, is that there is a great deal of sympathy and understanding for India's position on the recent events in the subcontinent. We had a lengthy conversation with Vice President, former President Bharat Jagdeo yesterday. We had a dinner hosted by Prime Minister Mark Anthony Phillips, and this morning spent a good time in the legislature, in the Parliament building, and again in conversation and lunch with the Speaker, Mr. Manzoor Nadir. So with all of this, we have already been able to have some useful conversations. I'm very happy to address any questions and concerns you may have about exactly what happened in this conflict, which we're here to talk about. But I'm pleased to say that in addition to that, we were able in all cases to enlarge the scope of the conversation to broader issues of friendship between India and Guyana, as well as greater opportunities for economic cooperation between our countries in the time and the years ahead. We capped it off by making an important visit both to Mahatma Gandhi's statue and the ship memorial to the Girmitiyas. The indentured laborers were brought into this country from 1838 to 1917 from various parts of India, and who came in extremely difficult conditions. I was reading that the death rate on these indentured labor ships was actually higher than that on the slave ships. It was a terrible, terrible experience, but these people emerging from this experience have now helped build the nation of Guyana, and that is a matter of great vicarious pride for all of us from India, as well as in many ways a tribute to the character and spirit of those who came and who have remained. Final word is that our message was very simple. We came to enhance Guyana's understanding of the rather unpleasant experiences we have been going through with terrorist attacks on our country. And in addition to that, to seek Guyana's understanding and support for our right to defend ourselves and to respond effectively to these actions. I'm pleased to say that we got complete understanding and unconditional sympathy and support from those we spoke to. For us, this is important because we don't believe that the battle against terrorism is ours alone. It is a battle that the world shares. I was very struck at yesterday's Independence Day celebrations, which we attended in Berbice, when the President himself spoke of how, if there are assaults on Guyana, that the people of Guyana will rise with, not with fear, he said, but with determination and resolution, or words to that effect. And to my mind, that's exactly the spirit in which we in India are responding to the assaults on our country, on our people, and on the values we hold dear. So this is very simply a summary of my message and my colleagues' message. We all spoke at the Parliament as well today. All of us have come with this message to the people and the leadership of Guyana. If you have any questions, or if you would like me to amplify further on anything that I've said, I'll be very happy to do so. Thank you very much. Yes. You're audible. You're audible. Go ahead.
This is Ayush Iqbal from ANI. So since Guyana is also a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council,
that's right,
who will soon be meeting the President of Guyana, what kind of support do you seek from Guyana when it comes to supporting India, which is also pitching for a permanent seat at UNSC, and it has been taking actions and, making efforts for the listing of terrorists at the United Nations Security Council. What kind of support do you seek from Guyana? And is this something that's going to come with, during the discussion when you meet the president today?
We had a brief courtesy meeting with the president at the Independence Day celebrations, but today will be more substantive and we'll have an opportunity to go into these issues in greater detail. The foreign minister will also be present either with him or shortly after. To my mind, Guyana's importance, thank you very much, Guyana's importance to us is because it's Guyana, but there's certainly the additional element that it is a member of the Security Council, and as such, its voice is heard when the 15 members of the Council are formulating a response to any incident involving international peace and security, under which obviously our recent troubles qualify. So, for example, the press statement by the Security Council condemning the terrorist attack in Pahalgam, Guyana's was one of the voices reflected in the language and strong support given to India in that press statement. Conversely, when there are issues in which others may have a less helpful attitude towards India on the Council, we would hope that Guyana will be among the friends who will speak up in favor of us. But I don't want to presume as an outsider what any sovereign country will do. All I can say is we will request the President of Guyana and the Foreign Minister to convey to their delegation how much importance and value we attach to their constructive assistance on ensuring that the world, in the voice of the UN Security Council, stands up against terror and for its victims, as well as, frankly, against those who would shield, guide, finance, arm, equip, and direct these terrorists who have been sent against our country. So all of this is extremely important. Yes, ma'am.
Following the incidents of April 22 and May 7, what impacts these incidents have had on India, particularly with neighboring countries?
Well, our neighboring countries, by and large, I think, have all condemned the terrorist attack when it happened. Even the country from which it originated made some statement about condemning terrorism. But having said that, in the time that followed, the couple of weeks that followed, there was no indication whatsoever that our neighbor, one particular neighbor, Pakistan, was taking any actions to deal with those who had claimed credit for this appalling attack. The so-called Resistance Front, which within 1 hour of the terrorist killings claimed credit and which repeated it the following day, is a well-known front of the Lashkar-e-Toiba, a proscribed terrorist organization listed by the UN Sanctions Committee, as well as on the United States government's terror wanted list, terror designated list. And this organization, Lashkar-e-Toiba, has its headquarters in the heart of Pakistan, in a place called Muridke in Pakistani Punjab. Perhaps it was naive of us to hope that the government would take any action, but none was forthcoming. And this is why India went ahead 2 weeks after this incident, on the night of the 6th, 7th of May, and attacked this headquarters as well as 8 other known terrorist bases and launch pads. These included those of the Lashkar-e-Toiba, which is a notorious organization and which is the parent body of the Resistance Front. It also included the Jaish-e-Mohammed, another notorious organization that's been involved in hijackings, bombings, as well as the execution of the American journalist Daniel Pearl. And then other well-known terrorist organizations such as the Harkat al-Ansar, Harkat al-Mujahideen, and other such groups, which have been spawned by Pakistan in a policy of using terrorism as an instrument of unofficial state policy. So for us, these strikes were calibrated, very precisely targeted, and very carefully done. They were done at night, 1:05 to 1:30 at night, when there were not likely to be many civilians around, so there would be no real risk of collateral damage to innocents. We also did so with such precision that precise buildings were hit inside the compounds of these organizations. We also took care to not touch in any way any government facility, any civilian facility, or even any military facility of the Pakistani army. And we conveyed that message after the strikes were over. A message was conveyed to Pakistan. We have not hit any of these things. That's deliberate on our part. We have just taken reprisal action against terror by attacking the infrastructure on which these terrorists rely. If you were not to respond, we will not respond further. Our action is over. Pakistan then chose to respond with heavy and indiscriminate artillery shelling, killing 19 civilians in an area called Poonch in Kashmir, in which sadly they also hit a Gurudwara, a Sikh temple, and a convent of the Carmelites of Mother Mary, killing victims in both these places. India then had to retaliate also with shelling. Pakistan unleashed a barrage of drones and missiles. They were effectively countered by our air defense systems, and India also then struck on the night of the 9th, 10th of May. We struck 11, this time explicitly military targets, airfields and runways and buildings associated with the Pakistani military, who were, after all, attacking us. So it was, in every case, retaliation. Our first strike was done in such a way that no escalation was needed. We had no desire to convey that it was the opening salvo in what was meant to be a sort of protracted war. Each strike was retaliatory. Each action taken by India was only in response to Pakistani action. And when governments called us to express concern, we conveyed exactly this message throughout, which is that we are not interested in war. If Pakistan stops, we will have no reason to retaliate. And that is, in the end, what happened. The Pakistanis, on the morning of the 10th of May Indian time, they reached out to our Director General of Military Operations. A call was set up for 3:30 in the afternoon, and then a ceasefire, or since no war had been declared, a cessation of firing, I think is the language they use, would start at 5 p.m. that day. In the 2 weeks since then, there has been a fair amount of calm. There were some violations on the first night, but that was it, sporadic violations. But from the second day onwards, there's been no trouble at all. The border is calm, and to the best of my knowledge, the forces are moving back a little bit from their assertive positions on the front lines. We, as I said, and I've said this repeatedly, we have no interest in war. We are not desirous of having a military conflict with any of our neighbors. We are focused on our growth and development. Guyana appreciates this because you yourself are focused so much on the remarkable economic growth story of this country, which is a record-setting 30% these days. India's is nowhere near that, but it is nonetheless the fastest growing major economy in the world today, and we are anxious to return to that pattern. That's what we want to do. So the short answer is, my colleague, that we are not in any way sending any signals of a negative nature to any of our neighbors because of this. This is purely a retaliation for terror attacks, nothing else. And as long as no other country wants to send terrorists our way, they have nothing to fear from us. We want to live in peace with them.
And secondly, how do you hope to move forward with this issue? And I know you will lead a delegation to Latin American, Caribbean.
Yes.
Other teams are all in different parts of the world. What has been the response? You said you had a favorable response so far in Ghana. What has been that response among the countries?
Sir, in general, the response has been one of great understanding. But the countries you mentioned we haven't gone to yet. We are going tonight to Panama, thereafter to Colombia and to Brazil. And we'll certainly be speaking to them exactly the same message that we're giving you here in Guyana. I would say that we have no reason to doubt that they will be understanding of our position when we explain it. If there was any question or concern, we're quite willing to explain it. In general, our impression is that terrorists have no friends and allies in the world except those who actually dispatch them. And therefore, we don't expect there'll be any willingness on the part of any country to condone what happened against us. On the other hand, let me say very bluntly that if it turns out that there are any questions about the actual 88-hour operation that took place, then certainly during those questions we'll be very happy to give. Your name is here, sir, for us. we'll be very happy to give constructive responses that explain exactly our position to the world. You asked about the impact back home in India. I think the sad impact has been on tourism in Kashmir. Tourism in Kashmir had been going up dramatically each year. In fact, there was a more than 100% increase between last summer and this summer, or the beginning of the summer. Or spring, I suppose, is what you would really say in the West. But sadly, that has now subsided dramatically because of this attack. I think we are all anxious and keen that we should encourage tourists to return, because in a sense that is one of the things that the terrorists wanted to achieve, was to hurt the Kashmiri economy and hurt the processes of normalization that have been going on. So if we can encourage our compatriots to go back and to enjoy their holidays in Kashmir, I would really like to see that happen. But otherwise, there has been no other impact on the rest of India, particularly. I would say after an 88-hour conflict, most of the country has gone back to normal. There was certainly a desire on the part of the terrorists to provoke communal tensions in India between the Hindu and Muslim communities. That failed spectacularly. All communities rallied around in a very united manner. And what was again very effective was that in the briefings that the Indian government and the Indian military gave every day during these 4 days of conflict, two of the military officers doing the briefing were women officers, and one of them was a Muslim, which sent a very clear message to the world, or anyone who was watching, that this is not about Hindu-Muslim or anything like that. This is about terrorism and terrorist enablers versus democratic India. A little louder, ma'am, or perhaps hold the mic a little closer.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You hear me now?
Yeah.
You said you're on a mission to Latin America, including countries of Colombia. Is this route also going to other countries? And can you explain the origin of this mission, and how you, as an opposition congressman, came to lead it?
Right, thanks. So the answer is this delegation is not going to other countries. We're covering 5 countries: Guyana, Panama, Colombia, Brazil, and the United States. However, there are 6 other delegations, a total of 7, that are spanned out to 7 different regions in the world. And some of them left even before we did. We've already had one group in, I think, Bahrain, Kuwait, and the UAE. We have another group reaching Egypt, Qatar, Algeria, and so on. I can't offhand tell you the exact geography and the exact number of countries that they're all going to, but cumulatively, our objective is to get our message across to all the members of the Security Council, other influential regional states in different regions of the world, and thereby to reach, I would say, probably not even a little more than, let's say, a quarter of the members of the United Nations, in the hope that in that process, we get the message around to the world. When you ask about the origin of the mission, when the government called me to invite me to lead this delegation, the message I was given is that the government wanted specifically an all-party delegation. The government was of the view that in this particular crisis, where by and large the nation had rallied together, and even the principal opposition party, the party to which I belong, had on the very first day declared its unconditional support to the government and the armed forces, that in these circumstances, it should not be a task for the regular diplomats who do their job anyway, everywhere around the world, extremely well, as our ambassador here does, but it should be from the political establishment of India, and it should cut across all party lines. So that was the origin of the thing. I'm going to ask my colleagues to add a word, because they all come from different parties. To my left, Shashank Manitripathi is from the ruling BJP party. Harish is from a different regional party in the south. Sarfraz is from a different regional party in the north. Mr. Kalita and Tejasvi are both from the BJP. And at the very end, Ambassador Sandhu is a very senior retired diplomat who's just retired from being ambassador in the United States. So we have a cross-section And I'm very happy if any of them would like to add a word to what I've just said. Shashank, do you want to say something?
No, I think one reason for this multi-party delegation is also that very often terror comes and goes, but we have consistently been inflicted this. And therefore we want to highlight to the nation and to the world that this is something which is an ongoing trouble for a country which is democratic, which is growing, which has no intention to harm any of its neighbors, which is only intent on Viksit Bharat, of growing ourselves into a developed country. So therefore, this multi-party delegation makes that point emphatically by visiting these various locations in person. Some of this can be done remotely, but we felt it is appropriate to highlight the point that this is just one of the many things which have been done. And the response that we've had has been very proportionate, non-escalatory, and in some ways very mature, so that we both send a message to terrorists that this is not going to be condoned, or this is not acceptable behavior, to the sponsors of those terrorists, that this is not something that is appropriate in today's modern world, but also to the world that we need the support of the world to fight terrorism, which is a global phenomenon. As we know, and we were very poignant appreciation of this when we all first descended on 9/11's memorial on the first day that we went to New York, as well as subsequently meeting with other people of think tanks there, that this actually has been afflicted in many countries, not just India. But sometimes it waves and comes down. We believe that this constant opposition to terrorism across the world, across multi-parties, across multi-domains, is very important, not just for India, but for the world.
Anybody else would like to add a word? No? Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
My other question, Pakistan has denied these attacks on India. Can you provide the latest update from investigations, from India's investigation to show that Pakistan or Pakistan-based terrorist groups directed those recent attacks?
Well, first of all, let me just stress that as far as Pakistan's denials are concerned, we've seen this movie before. I mean, there have been sadly attack after attack on India, every one of which was denied by Pakistan, and every one of which was then found not just by Indian sources, but by objective and often international investigations to be from Pakistan. I'll give you two famous examples. 2008, when we had this horrific attack on Mumbai, what we call 26/11, like the 9/11, the Americans went through. 170 people were killed over 3 protracted days, and those of you who are old enough will remember the unfolding saga on television of this long drawn-out terrorist atrocity. At that time, Pakistan also denied it. One of the terrorists was caught alive. His identity was established. His home, his address, his village in Pakistan were identified. And Western intelligence agencies, not us, had actually recorded the chilling voice of the Pakistani handler giving daily instructions, and not minute-by-minute instructions to the killers in one of the hotels in Bombay, which room to go to and where to turn and whom to attack and whom to kill and whom to spare and so on. It was an absolutely sickening example of evidence. A detailed dossier was compiled. The surviving terrorist was completely investigated. Transcripts were given to the Pakistanis and to other countries interested. And to this day, no one has been prosecuted or convicted for this crime. So Pakistan's situation, as you may remember, was further exposed to the world when they denied knowing where Osama bin Laden was. In fact, the Pakistani president of the time claimed that Osama bin Laden was dead. He was found very much alive in a safe house right next to an army cantonment in a garrison city in the heart of Pakistan. So this is the story of Pakistan. We have denials all the time, and they always turn out to be lies. And this is why it has become extremely difficult for us to take Pakistani denials seriously. But on this particular instance, the denial is all the more hollow because of the TRF's claim of credit. Not only did they claim credit within 1 hour of the attacks taking place, which showed that they had immediate intimate knowledge, but they repeated that 24 hours later on the same website. And it was only when the masters of denial told them, we are busy denying, why are you claiming credit, that they were persuaded to delete the claim from their site. However, when India struck the headquarters in Muridke of the LET and the headquarters in Bahawalpur of the Jaish-e-Mohammed, there were a number of terrorists killed in those locations. And when the funerals took place, as you can see here, they were attended by Pakistani military and police officials in uniform. While the funeral prayers for terrorists are going on, the coffin is draped with a Pakistani flag, and people in uniform are there to mourn the loss of these handlers. Some of the people present, by the way, have been identified, and at least one of them, Asghar, is somebody who's on the UN Sanctions Committee wanted list. So it's not that this is an innocent funeral for regular folk. This is a terrorist funeral, and what greater evidence of Pakistani complicity can you want than the actual presence at the funeral of Pakistani senior military and police officials in uniform? I'm sorry to say that this is not something which we can lightly overlook, and that's why India responded in this way, striking sites. And I might add that when people talk about evidence, there were various claims being made about who did how much damage to whom. We are not particularly boastful about doing damage, simply because we would rather not have had this war at all. But you have seen, in fact, and there are a few others. I'm sorry I don't have more than one copy, but you're welcome to take photos of it. These were satellite pictures, and these are all publicly available, because, as you know, satellite technology means there are eyes in the sky for everything. The damage that has been done. Whereas Pakistan, in addition to claiming certain things, in addition to denying certain things, has also claimed certain things. And I've not seen this kind of evidence from the other side for whatever damage they claim to have inflicted. So all I will say is the terrorists got what they deserved, and those who backed them and continued backing them even after this tragic incident, they also got what was coming to them. And I'm still saying this in measured tones. I'm not here to sort of rattle sabers. We are at peace today, and we want to remain at peace. And that's also a very strong message. But we want to remain at peace with strength. As your president said yesterday, not out of fear. We are not afraid that these people will hit us again. If they hit us again, they're going to get it back worse. We are determined to convey our steely determination and resolve. And we want the world to react, also not with fear, but also not with indifference. We want the world to understand. And we want the world to understand why and what. Why is because we've been enduring terrorist attacks for nearly 4 decades. And what is that we are going to respond in a measured, calibrated, precise manner to ensure that no act of terrorism goes unpunished. If you come and hurt us, there will be a price to pay. If you leave us alone to get on with our business of economic development and growth, we will happily do that, and we will leave you alone. That's the message to those people who have chosen so far to behave in this atrocious manner. Madam, as you can imagine, this issue goes beyond the terms of reference of this delegation, which has come with a very specific mandate. I will say, however, that our country has been following very closely this entire painful dispute. We are aware that there were diplomatic discussions in December of 2023 between the two countries. We're aware there's been some discussions in the International Court of Justice. We certainly support a peaceful resolution and a just resolution of this issue. But beyond that, ma'am, it's really, to be very blunt, not our business here. Those of us who've come on this mission are here for the very specific purpose of focusing on developments in the subcontinent and speaking to our friends in Guyana about this broader issue. As it happens, we've had larger conversations, including about your wonderful development story, your economic growth prospects, the desire of many of your leaders to see India more involved in some of the economic. All of that we have taken note of, and we are conveying it back to our country when we get back. They have also mentioned their concerns about the present crisis, the question that you mentioned on your border, and we have listened with a great deal of attention and a great deal of sympathy and understanding. Beyond that, it's difficult for me to say more, because these are all sensitive diplomatic issues, and those handling them are better prepared to answer your questions. Have I exhausted your curiosity? Great. Well, thank you all very much. Yes, ma'am.
In the discussions with our Vice President, it just centered around this issue, nothing else.
No, we talked, because he's, as you know, also overall responsible for the economy of Guyana. So we covered a lot of economic ground. He talked about specific sectors that Guyana was giving importance to. Some of those sectors were also repeated in the President's speech last night. He mentioned banking, the strong need for a completely revamped banking infrastructure, the need for digital infrastructure, telecommunications improvements. These are all sectors in which India, I'm pleased to say, has also gone through major reforms in the last decade. And therefore, there are a number of lessons learned and experiences we are quite willing to share. As you know, the Indian Prime Minister was here not long ago, late last year, and our Foreign Minister came before that. And I think that the Indian government is very conscious of Guyana's needs and desires, and we are open in many respects for collaboration. It's not just governments. There are Indian private sector firms which we are encouraging also to come and get involved in Guyana. I'd like to see very much more involvement, because you are embarking on a great adventure. You are transforming your country, your infrastructure, your growth possibilities. There are opportunities in agriculture. There are opportunities in dealing with aspects of water management, of climate change issues. There's just so much going on. And the Vice President gave us, we had limited time, about 35, 40 minutes, but in that time, we covered quite a vast amount of ground, and all of these issues were covered. And I will say that we are very excited to hear the story of your growth and development. And certainly we'd like to be a small part of your adventure. So let's hope we can do that. And that Indian companies will come.
Small thing.
Sure.
I think we were all very delighted to be part of your 59th
Yes.
Republic celebration. And
Independence.
Celebration. And what we saw there, at least what struck me personally, was two things. One is the great cultural melange, this prosperity that you're engendering by bringing people together. And the second thing which touched many of us was a recitation of Rabindranath Tagore's Where the Mind is Without Fear and the Head Held High. So I think these kind of relationships with these two great nations, that is also something that I think we take personally with us from this journey.
A modified version of Tagore. Not the whole
Modified version.
All right. May I thank you all very much for your time. Jai Hind.